Okay, it's game time. Hasta luego.
What up, it's Shankster94, and welcome to my HD weapon review remake of Resident Evil Code Veronica X. So this is a high-definition remake of a much older weapon review that I used to have. If you want to watch the older version, you can now find it on my TGS Classics channel. I will provide a link in the annotation right here. So being a remake, I won't say anything about the game in general, and I need to work on cutting down my introductions anyway. So let's get on with the weapon review. So I'm going to start with the weapon that I always start with, the combat knife. This weapon is a veteran survivor's first choice. Alright, unique description from like all the rest of the descriptions of the knives. So let's test the combat knife out. Alright, nothing real new here, so let's go ahead and test the knife on the most basic enemy, a zombie. Alright, so that took 9 slashes, and the knife in this game is very unique compared to all the other games in the series. As you can see, a couple of those slashes were actually double hits. I made sure to count each individual slash, so it took 9 slashes. Now, I was using the knife the hard way. There's actually a way easier way to use the knife on the zombie. I'm going to show you that right now. Alright, so as you saw, going for the feet is definitely a better option in this game. So they made this knife way overpowered and a lot more useful than any other Resident Evil game. It did take a few more slashes. Now, that second slash motion either did 4 or 5 hits in one slash. That's why the knife is so overpowered. But I counted as carefully as I could, and I concluded that it either took 12 or 13 individual hit points from the knife to take down this zombie right now. And the reason why that's more than the other one is probably because I was going for the legs this time, which does weaker damage. Alright, well, that is it for the knife. Alright, time for the firearms, and I'll start with the handguns, of course. And the first one is just your typical handgun. More specifically, M93 Raffica, an Italian handgun which uses 9mm by 19 rounds. Alright, so this is the debut of the Beretta M93R, which will later be featured in Resident Evil 5. Alright, so let's go ahead and test it out. Alright, typical handgun, although it does have the fastest firing speed of any handgun in a classic Resident Evil game. Alright, I'm gonna test the handgun on a zombie. Alright, so it took 5 shots with the regular M93R to take down a zombie. Now that's pretty basic for a handgun. Although I know for a fact, throughout the game it could take more shots than that. And it could also take less shots. There you go with the handgun. Just use my formula. Add and subtract 5 to the individual test and it should spread across the entire game. Now, every weapon I test on a zombie, I am going to use this same exact zombie, so you can compare the weapons in the best possible way. So I don't think anything's going to change when it comes to damage points. Alright, well, that is it for the M93R. Alright, so something they brought back from Resident Evil 2 was the ability to combine parts with your handgun. So now we got the custom handgun, and that's not even full of ammo. There we go. Custom handgun. M93 Raffica Burst. It's an M93 Raffica equipped with a stock. It can be adjusted to fire 3 bullets in succession. Alright. So, just like in Resident Evil 2, I could switch it from automatic to manual. Manual is just semi-automatic, and auto is burst fire. So let's just go ahead and test it out. Alright, so you could fire it almost like an automatic handgun if you know how to shoot it right. So let's go ahead and test the custom handgun on a zombie. Alright, so it also took 5 shots when the M93R is upgraded to burst fire. So that proves right there that the upgrade doesn't change the firepower at all. It just makes the weapon simply capable of burst fire. That's it. Alright, well, that is it for the customized M93R. Now for another handgun. Glock 17. A large size handgun that uses 9mm by 19 rounds. Barely a different description from the other handgun. Alright, let's test it out. Alright, so another way to tell the difference between the handguns is to say Claire's handgun or Chris's handgun or Beretta and Glock, respectively. Alright, so let's test Chris's handgun on a zombie. Alright, so it seems the Glock 17 also takes 5 shots. So there probably isn't much of a firepower difference, if any, between the M93R and the Glock 17. So all the more reason why the only difference between these guns is what they are and who uses them. Although both characters can use the other gun. So it's up to you whether or not you want to use the M93R or the Glock 17. If you ask me, those guns should stick to the character that they're with. Except when you start upgrading them, then I think the M93R is actually better than the Glock 17 because, well, I'm getting to that. So that is it for the Glock 17. Alright, so just like with the M93 Raffica, you can upgrade the Glock 17. However, those parts aren't obtainable. You can only upgrade the handgun when you're at this workbench with Chris, along with this Glock 17. It's a work desk. Various tools are placed on it. I can modify my Glock 17 here. Alright, so now for the next handgun. The enhanced handgun. Modified Glock 17. It's a modified Glock 17. And I remembered how stupid that description was. It's the worst description in the whole Resident Evil series. They had put no effort into it. Alright, and judging from my original review, it seems that this handgun is absolutely no different from its previous version. Because look, when I test it out, it's no different from its previous version. And when I test it on a zombie right now, we'll see if it does any difference. It's gonna be the same exact zombie I tested it before it was upgraded on. So we'll find out right now. Okay. So, the enhanced Glock 17 only took 2 shots. And now I think I finally discovered what the enhancement is all about. Because if you ever watched my original version of this weapon review, you will find that there was absolutely no difference between the 2 tests other than the location of the zombie. But both tests took the same amount of shots, so I was convinced by all means that there was absolutely no difference between the regular Glock 17 and the enhanced one. But now all of a sudden this happens. It only took 2 shots instead of 4. And I feel like it's because maybe what the enhancement really is it increases the chance of a critical headshot. And even though that didn't seem like a critical, he was bleeding out after that second shot. So maybe it's a specific timing thing, since in the original test and in all the time I've been using the enhanced Glock 17, nothing seemed to be different. So I guess that's it right there. That's the only thing it could possibly be. Or that was just a fluke. I don't know what that was. But the fact of the matter is, it just took 2 shots right there. It's the same exact zombie, and it's just the enhanced version of the Glock 17. I think it was a ton of luck right there that it finally ran across that point, if that's even the case. Alrighty then, well, that is it for the enhanced Glock 17. Alright, now here's the perfect time to look at these, the gold Lugers. The grip is nicely decorated. It uses 30 Luger rounds. So you can only use these with Steve in the battle game. He has these with him throughout the regular story, but when you get to control him, he trades them for the submachine guns. So the only time you really get to see him in action is when he saves Claire from a Bandersnatch. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and use them real quick here, and then I'm going to test them on a zombie. Not the same zombie I've been testing it on, unfortunately. So I can't guarantee it's going to be the same health points as the other zombie. Regardless, it's a special weapon anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Let's test it out. Alright, so the fact that it's 2 handguns made it difficult to judge the exact amount of shots it took. But I conclude it took between 4 and 6 shots. I did more than one zombie. One zombie took 6 shots and another zombie took only 4 shots. So, it depends probably. Not sure. But once again, it's only a battle game weapon, so it's not so important in the weapon review when compared to the campaign weapons, which you would use throughout the regular game. Alright, so that is it for the gold Lugers, as well as all handguns. Now for the next weapon, the M100P. A semi-automatic pistol which has a large-sized special magazine. This handgun enables precise rapid shooting with little recoil. So I guess this is classified as a handgun, although there's no ammo for it in the game. So if you plan on using it, just know that once you run out of ammo, there is no more using it. So let's go ahead and test the M100P out. Alright, so you acquire this weapon very early in the game, like directly after you retrieve the handgun. And all you have to do is go into a building that isn't essential to moving on in the game. You just have to defeat this one zombie who happens to have it when he blows through a window. Alright, let's test the M100Ps on a zombie. Alright, so from what I observed, it took 6 shots from the M100P to take down a zombie. Now, one of those times I was like right up in his face, so that might have done a little more damage than at a regular range, like the other 4 shots were. Now, it's a dual wielding weapon, so if there were multiple enemies in the place, Chris would have aimed like 2 separate directions with both guns. So that's one cool feature about dual wielding weapons in this game, is the fact that you can hit more than one enemy at a time. Alright, well, that is it for the M100Ps.